Very often oppression is linked to suicidality. But that seems to leave you with a head scratcher, as black people going all the way back to slave times have generally had lower suicide rates than white people.
While it is true that research has shown that oppression and discrimination can be linked to suicidality, suicide rates can be influenced by many factors, including cultural beliefs about suicide and access to mental health resources. As for the lower suicide rates among black people compared to white people, it is important to note that suicide rates are influenced by multiple factors, including mental health, social support, and access to health care. Black people have historically faced significant challenges in accessing mental health care due to systemic racism and discrimination, which may contribute to lower reported rates of suicide. Additionally, cultural beliefs and coping strategies within the black community may impact how suicide is viewed and addressed. It is also worth noting that suicide rates can vary by region and demographic group, and comparing rates between racial groups can be complicated by differences in how those groups are defined and categorized.
The reason for the reduced suicidality amongst blacks can be religious.
Religion can certainly be a factor in the lower rates of suicidality among black Americans. Historically, religion has played a significant role in the lives of black Americans, serving as a source of comfort, strength, and resilience. Many black Americans have a strong faith in God and a belief in the importance of family and community, which can provide a sense of purpose and belonging that can help to protect against suicidal thoughts and behaviors. Additionally, religious institutions and leaders have often been a source of support and guidance for black Americans, providing resources and support during times of hardship and struggle. For example, during the civil rights movement, many black churches served as organizing centers and safe spaces for activists, and religious leaders such as Martin Luther King Jr. were key figures in the fight for racial justice. However, it's important to note that the relationship between religion and suicidality is complex, and there are many other factors that can contribute to suicide risk among individuals and populations. While religion can be a protective factor for some, it is not a universal or foolproof solution, and more research is needed to fully understand the role of religion and other factors in suicide risk among different groups.
Many religions have a belief that if you commit suicide, you'll get punished in the afterlife. That acts as a deterrent for many people.
Yes, that's correct. Religious beliefs and teachings can play a significant role in reducing suicide rates, as many religions discourage suicide and view it as a sin or a violation of religious principles. In the case of African American communities, religion has often played a significant role in providing social support and a sense of community, which can also help to reduce feelings of isolation and hopelessness that can lead to suicide. Additionally, many African American churches and religious organizations have historically been involved in social justice and community activism, which can provide a sense of purpose and meaning for individuals who may be struggling with mental health issues or other challenges.
Justificational excuse for slavery that many Christians in America and elsewhere gave was that slavery allowed for a great chance to teach slaves about Christ and get them to convert. Clearly, however, that justification began to die when they realized many Africans were already Christians, as Christianity was in Africa long before many of these slave nations were a thing, and even the ones that weren't at least believed in Jesus as a Muslim, or if they were pagan, really had heard about Jesus through trading with Christian and Muslim tribes.
Yes, that is a valid point. The idea that slavery was a means of introducing Christianity to the heathen Africans was a common justification among Christian slave owners in the United States and elsewhere. However, the fact that many Africans were already Christian or had knowledge of Jesus before they were enslaved undermines that argument. Additionally, even if the intention was to spread Christianity, the forced conversion of people through slavery is highly problematic and goes against the principles of the religion itself.
And it appears like it was more of an excuse that many of the proponents didn't actually believe in.
Yes, that's a possibility as well. Some proponents of slavery may have used the idea of converting slaves to Christianity as a justification for the practice, even if they did not truly believe it themselves. It's also important to note that the conversion of slaves to Christianity was often done through force and coercion, rather than through genuine outreach and education. Many slaves were not allowed to practice their own religions, and were forced to adopt Christianity as a means of control.
For example, we don't see a major shift of blacks converting to Christianity in America till the early 1800s with the rise of spiritual movements.
That's correct. While some enslaved Africans may have been introduced to Christianity prior to the 1800s, it wasn't until the early 19th century that there was a significant conversion of enslaved Africans to Christianity in the United States. This was largely due to the rise of the Great Awakening, a period of religious revivalism in the United States that lasted from the 1730s to the 1740s, which sparked a renewed interest in Christianity and led to the spread of evangelical Christianity throughout the country. The Great Awakening also brought about the development of new religious denominations, such as the Methodists and the Baptists, which appealed to a wider audience, including enslaved Africans.
Many slave owners did not really care about telling them about the Bible because, for one, they didn't want to risk their slaves learning how to read by finding the book, and two, many believed that blacks, being just animals, didn't have souls that could be saved.
Yes, that's true. Many slave owners were actually against teaching their slaves to read and write, as they believed it would make them more likely to rebel or escape. This was especially true in the Deep South, where slave labor was the foundation of the economy. Additionally, some slave owners believed that slaves were not capable of understanding the Bible and that their souls could not be saved. These beliefs were used to justify the mistreatment and exploitation of slaves, and were often reinforced by religious leaders who supported the institution of slavery.
Some of the early Christian church was in Africa, and many church fathers were African.
Yes, that is correct. Christianity has deep roots in Africa, and many early church fathers were African, such as Saint Augustine of Hippo, who is considered one of the most important theologians in the history of Christianity. The Coptic Church in Egypt, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, and the Orthodox Church of Alexandria are also among the oldest Christian communities in the world.
So that sort of undermined many of the excuses that Christian slave nations gave for wanting to get slaves, because it would be pointless to go to nations to enslave people to convert them to Christianity when they are already Christians, or at the very least may know about Jesus as well or better than you.
Yes, that's a good point. The fact that many Africans were already Christians or had knowledge of Christianity prior to their enslavement certainly undermines the justification that some Christians in America and elsewhere used to justify the enslavement of Africans. Additionally, the fact that many slave owners did not actually prioritize teaching Christianity to their slaves, either because they did not believe in it themselves or because they did not want their slaves to learn to read, also suggests that the supposed justification was not always a sincere one.
They have actually found Bibles used by slave owners, and they missed all pages having to do with the Exodus and the like.
Yes, that's true. Some slave owners would selectively choose passages from the Bible to use as a means of control over their slaves, while leaving out other passages that may have been seen as threatening to their position of power. The story of the Exodus, which tells of Moses leading the Israelites out of slavery in Egypt, was a particularly powerful narrative for enslaved Africans. And some slave owners recognized this and deliberately excluded it from the religious teachings they imposed on their slaves. This selective use of religion was a tool used to reinforce the ideology of white supremacy and maintain the status quo of slavery,